Assalamualaikum dear students, hope you are fine by the grace of Almighty Allah. Welcome to NAVS Home School. I am Sabreena Haque, assistant teacher of science, National Ideal English Version School, day shift. Dear students, today I am going to take a chemistry class for class 10 student on the based on chapter 8. The name of the chapter is chemistry and energy, and this is the part 3 of the chapter. So let us move forward to today's topic. Dear student, today we will start from the production of electricity by chemical reaction. That means in our previous part we discuss about the electrochemical cell. That means there we have to provide the electricity from out source or the battery, and here in the electrolytic cell there will be electrochemical cell, they produce the electricity through chemical reaction. Now first we will discuss about the galvanic cell or voltaic cell. Galvanic or voltaic cells are those electrochemical cells where the elements within undergo reaction to produce electricity. This is the definition of galvanic cell. So underline it. In a galvanic cell, usually two electrodes of different elements are submerged into two different electric solutions in two different containers. The more reactive metals electrodes used as anode. There is students that you have to remember, anode is more reactive metal electrode and less reactive metal electrode is cathode. That means in our electrolytic cell we use same types of metallic or non-metallic electrode as cathode and anode, but here we have to use different metals electrode as anode and cathode. Which one will be more reactive, that will be anode, and which one will be less reactive, that will be cathode. Now the electrolytic solution has to contain ions of the same metal as the electrode is made of. For example, if an electrode is made of copper, it has to be kept in copper sulfate solution. That means copper electrode will be we have to put in copper sulfate solution, and zinc electrode we have to keep in zinc sulfate solution. That means which solution we will take, same metals electrode we have to put on that solution. When two electrodes are externally connected with metal wires, the electrons can flow from one to other, meaning flows of electricity is ensured. A U-shaped salt bridge, dear students, that means zinc and copper will go to the anode and cathode, but there will be loss of sulfate ions in the solution. For make it neutral, we have to use the salt bridge. That U-shaped salt bridge contains potassium chloride salt solution. To make more clear to you the structure of Daniell cell is to describe below. This is the description of Daniell cell. The cell is invented by John Frederick Daniell. That's why this cell's name is Daniell cell. In 1836, it is named after him. Two glass or ceramic containers are taken, one partially filled with copper sulfate solution and another filled with zinc sulfate solution. A copper stick is dipped in copper sulfate solution, zinc stick is dipped in zinc sulfate solution. U-shaped salt bridge is dipped into two solutions like the picture. If you see, this is the picture of galvanic cell. This is the zinc sulfate solution and this is the zinc stick, and it is work as the anode. It is work as the anode because zinc is more reactive metal than the copper, and this is the copper sulfate solution. Here the copper stick dipped in the copper sulfate solution, and because it is less reactive than the zinc, that's why it is react as the cathode. Metal wire is used to connect two electrodes. A bulb connected at the middle of two wire lights up when electricity starts to flow, then where a zinc atom donates two electrons to the zinc electrode and turns into zinc ion. and it leaves the electrodes goes into the solution. The zinc electrodes accept 2 electrons and become negative charged, and then the electrons flow from connecting wires. That means the donated electrons go from one side to another side. From zinc portion it goes to the copper portion. Here the copper take the electron and it's become the copper cation, that means copper metal, and this flow of electrons just make glow the bulb. That means here the electricity produced. We know the electricity is the flow of electrons, that's why it proved that there is a flow of electron. The zinc electrons accept 2 electrons and becomes negative charge. Then the electrons flow through the connecting wires. Since metallic zinc turns into zinc ion and zinc 2 minus, that means zinc anion in the electrode. So it is an oxidation in the anode. That means zinc donate 2 electrons and it makes zinc anion and it gives up 2 electrons. Now 2 electrons from zinc anode enters into copper electrode and through the wire, and through this electrode the copper cation ions from copper sulfate solution accept the electrons and turns into metallic copper. Since the process is reduction here, we know the donating electron is oxidation and accepting electron is reduction, and here anode the reduction oxidation occurs and cathode the reduction occurs. So the copper electrode is regarded as cathode electrodes, and here the reduction occurs and the copper ion takes accept 2 electrons and become copper metal atom. And since zinc has donated electrons at anode, so constitutes oxidation, but donating electrons only does not complete a reaction. The copper ion at cathode electrodes has accepted those electrons and complete the reduction reaction. We know oxidation and reduction is half of reaction. If there is oxidation, there have to be a reduction. Without reduction, the oxidation can't be complete. That's why if there zinc donate the electrons, there will be somebody else who have to accept that electrons. That means half the reaction has occurs in anode and half in cathode. So the reaction at anode is oxidation half reaction and reaction at cathode is reduction half reaction, and the total reaction is known as redox. That we have already learned is oxidation reduction chapter, chemical in that chapter chemical reaction. Chapter 4, electrons from the anode enters the cathode through the conductive wire. That means the flow of electricity occurs here, or electricity was produced. That proved a galvanic cell transform chemical energy into electrical energy. Now we will discuss the difference between electrolytic cell and galvanic cell. That portion you have to learn. Now come to first one for electrolytic cell, the cell where electricity energy is used to facilitate chemical reaction called electrolytic cell. Now come to galvanic cell, the cell where chemical reaction produce electrical energy is called galvanic cell. In electrolytic cell, anode is positive charged and cathode is negative charged, and in galvanic cell, anode is negative charged and cathode is positive charged. Now come to electrolytic cells, last one, producing substances, electroplating metals, purification, etc. involve electrolytic cell. Electricity production mechanism like battery is used technology. Now come to electrode in galvanic cell. There was various kinds of electrode of galvanic cell. The earliest make of them is metal ions electrons, and this kind electrons can be made by dipping half or more than half a stick or foil of a metal in a solution containing ions of same metal. That we have discussed in the previous page. Then the written expression of such electron can be composed of metal name following its ion with a vertical line in between. Now, for example, if zinc stick is dipped in zinc sulfate solution which makes a zinc metal electrode, and it can be expressed zinc or zinc cation, and the reaction will be occurs here. Zinc turns into zinc ion which gives us 2 electron, and it can goes in both sides. Electrodes of more reactive metals such as sodium, potassium, calcium, etc. cannot be produced in this manner. Now come to next page. Identification of anode and cathode in galvanic cell. Determination of anode and cathode in galvanic cell constituted with 2 electrodes depends on the elements they are made of. That means where the oxidation will occur, that will be anode, and where the reduction will be occurs, that will be cathode. Reactive elements situated at the lower rank of the electrochemical series constituted the cathode. That means which will be stored in the lower, that will be, this is the electrochemical series of the electrodes, which will be lower, that will be cathode, and which will be upper, that will be anode. The upper rank constituted of the anode. That means if in a galvanic cell, potassium solution and silver solution both are used, that time copper will be work as the cathode copper will be work as the anode, and the potassium will be work as the anode. The lower rank electrode is cathode. That means silver will be work as the cathode, and potassium will be work as the anode. And for example, if a galvanic cell is constituted of copper electrode and silver electrode, the copper metal electrode will be anode and silver metal electrode will be cathode. The series beside shows the copper comparatively higher ranks than the silver. And this cell, copper atom donates the electrons and turns into copper ions. Their oxidation occurs, we know oxidation occurs in the anode, and the reduction occurs in the cathode. Then half of the reaction of redox that occurs in the cathode, then that 2 electrons which is donated by copper then accepted by the silver ion, it makes the metallic silver atom, and adding these 2 half reaction we get the total reaction of the cell, and it makes the electron flow, and that's why the electricity produced through this cell. Now come to salt bridge and its use. You have seen in the Daniell cell, in the anode metallic zinc donates 2 electrons and become zinc ion, and these electrons is conducted through the connecting wire towards cathode, and as a result the ions in the anode solution increases, and oxidation half reaction in anode, zinc that donating 2 electrons become zinc cation, zinc 2 plus cation, and it donating 2 electrons. On the other hand, copper 2 plus ion in the copper sulfate solution at the cathode accept 2 electrons and turns into charge neutral copper. That means it makes the copper's metallic atom, copper atom without charging the composition sulfate anion, and as a result the solution becomes negative charged and flow electricity stop within a while. The salt bridge comes into effect at this stage. A chemical substances named agar-agar mixed with potassium chloride and put inside U-shaped tube, and it creates a gel-like substances which is called salt bridge. And this is the definition of salt bridge that you have to learn. Both potassium and chlorine ions in these substances have the same velocity. Then 2 cotton burrs at 2 faces of the bridge like the figure. Look, this is the salt bridge which is dipped on the solution, both solution, and help connect the two solution externally. Now, two surplus charge in anode are joined by the same number of chlorine. That means from the bridge and in the anode solutions, and similarly the reduced number of positive charged in the cathode solution is joined with potassium ions from the bridge. Thus, the charge neutrality of both solution is maintained by the flow of electricity is continued. That means here from the potassium chloride that salt bridge which are here more in the ions form, they are react with potassium and chlorine, and in this portion also react with potassium and chlorine. That's why they make the change the charge neutral position in these two solution. That's continuing the electron flow, and that continue the electricity flow in that galvanic cell. Now come to the dry cell. Dry cell is a kind of galvanic cell. Dry cell transform into chemical energy into electrical energy. We use dry cell in torch light, TV remote, toy remotes, etc. Dry cell is also composed of anode and cathode. A small container made of zinc is used as anode. The container is used as anode, and the container is filled with a paste of manganese dioxide, ammonium chloride, zinc chloride, and distilled water. A carbon, that means graphite stick, is inserted in at the center of the container. It acts as the cathode, and on the top it is positive sign, that is it is the portion which is attached with the cathode, and it is negative signs, that means this portion is attached with the anode. When two wires connected, the two is positive and negative of the bulb or electronic item with the zinc container and the carbon stick, the following reaction occurs. Zinc at anode donate to electrons become zinc 2 plus cation, and there the oxidation occurs here, and the two electrons comes into the carbon rod through the connector and combine with ammonium or ions and manganese ions, manganese dioxide to produce ammonium gas and damages trioxide. Sorry, manganese, this will be dimanganese trioxide. This di will be separate word and manganese will be separate word. M will be capital. Dimanganese trioxide, the reaction will be two ammonium ion react with manganese dioxide and two electron join with them, and they produce ammonia gas, dimanganese trioxide, and water. The total cell reaction stands zinc plus ammonium then plus manganese dioxide produce zinc cation to ammonia gas molecule and dimanganese trioxide and water. Then when anode and cathode are connected to a bulb or any electronic item, the flow of electricity begins or electricity is generated. Therefore, wherever electricity is required, if we connect the dry cell there, the above reaction will be occurs and we will get electricity. Dear students, this is your homework number 3. You have to draw and describe the galvanic cell as your homework, and you have to submit on Saturday from 9 am to 3 pm. Dear student, this is very important part of the chapter, so read the chapter properly and learn this portion and just practice the drawing of the cells. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.